This Snow White press tour has got to be the worst marketing I've ever seen for a movie. I mean, the new Snow White actress is literally walking around interview to interview just bashing Snow White.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Just sit around and say, yeah, we grew up watching this movie called Snow White, and all of a sudden you show up and we have to eliminate all the memories of these young girls who grew up wanting to have an experience like that?
Hey, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
Look at her eyes. Tristan, we could park our jet in between those eyes.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who has the most googly eyes of all?
Rachel Zegler was supposed to be Hollywood's next big thing. The fresh-faced star Disney handpicked to lead their iconic Snow White reboot. But instead of a fairy tale ending, her career seems to be unraveling in real time. With every new comment, viral backlash, and studio whisper, the question isn't just whether Snow White will flop. It's whether Rachel herself has doomed her own future in Hollywood. Her journey from rising star to controversy magnet has been nothing short of a spectacle. Fans once celebrated her as the next leading lady, but now many are turning their backs, labeling her entitled and out of touch. And it's not just social media outrage. There are signs that even Hollywood itself might be distancing from her. So how did it all go so wrong so fast? And how did Rachel Zegler end his career to turn things around?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Rachel Zegler's Hollywood story started as a true Cinderella moment. A young, unknown actress plucked from obscurity to star in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. With her powerhouse vocals and undeniable screen presence, she was hailed as the industry's next big thing. Critics praised her performance, award buzz followed, and Disney came knocking, offering her the coveted lead role in their live-action Snow White reboot. For a brief moment, it seemed like Rachel was on the fast track to superstardom. Studios saw her as the perfect Gen Z leading lady, talented, charismatic, and outspoken. But as quickly as she rose, the narrative around her began to shift. The same confidence that made her stand out started rubbing people the wrong way. Her unfiltered opinions, which once felt refreshing, soon turned controversial. And when she started making bold remarks about the very project meant to solidify her A-list status, the tides began turning. What started as a dream career was now beginning to crack under the pressure of internet scrutiny, industry politics, and PR missteps. But was Rachel just another victim of Hollywood's brutal cycle of hype and backlash? Or was she playing a role in her own downfall? Rachel Zegler was poised to be Hollywood's next darling, until her own words turned the spotlight against her. What started as a highly anticipated casting choice for Disney's Snow White quickly spiraled into an internet firestorm after a series of interviews where Rachel made bold, and to some, dismissive comments about the beloved fairy tale. Her remarks about the original 1937 film being dated, and her insistence that the new adaptation would have a more modern and feminist take didn't sit well with longtime Disney fans. Critics argued that instead of celebrating the legacy of the classic, she seemed to be tearing it down. But the controversy didn't stop there. Her candidness, once praised as refreshing, soon came across as condescending. In one interview, she joked about how the prince was a stalker and how the love story was outdated. Statements that were quickly dissected, memed, and weaponized by critics who saw her as ungrateful for the role that was supposed to launch her career into the stratosphere. The backlash intensified, with fans and industry insiders questioning whether Rachel's approach was alienating the very audience Disney needed for Snow White to succeed. What could have been a simple PR misstep snowballed into something far greater. The internet turned against her, branding her as another example of Hollywood's woke reimaginings gone wrong. As her past comments continued to resurface, the damage control efforts from Disney and Rachel's team seemed too little too late. But was this just another case of online outrage spiraling out of control? Or had Rachel truly jeopardized her own career with a few ill-timed remarks?
Vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Come on. Go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business. Thanks.
What started as a few eyebrow-raising comments quickly became a full-blown internet wildfire. Rachel Zegler's interviews weren't just criticized, they were dissected, memed, and weaponized against her. Social media platforms exploded with backlash as fans and critics alike called her out for what they saw as a condescending and dismissive attitude toward the beloved Snow White classic. Hashtags like "Ain't not my Snow White" and "Thy shall boycott Disney" began trending, with users accusing Rachel of being out of touch with the very audience Disney needed to attract. Every clip of her interviews was replayed, analyzed, and reinterpreted. Her sarcastic tone, her insistence that the original 1937 film was creepy and weird, and her claims that this new version would be far more empowering were met with relentless mockery. Memes flooded the internet, some comparing her to other actors who had handled controversial roles with more grace, others outright ridiculing her for allegedly acting too good for the role. It didn't help that past social media posts of hers resurfaced, further fueling the perception that she lacked the humility and gratitude expected of a rising Hollywood star. But the most damaging part? The response from Disney, or rather, the lack of one. As the controversy swirled, neither the studio nor Rachel herself seemed to address the growing outrage directly. Instead of issuing a clarifying statement or apologizing for any unintended offense, Rachel doubled down in later interviews, insisting that this version of Snow White was different because it's no longer about a prince saving the day. While that might have been the studio's intended angle, the way it was presented only deepened the divide between the film's supporters and its critics. As engagement skyrocketed, albeit for all the wrong reasons, it became clear that Snow White was no longer just a Disney film. It was now a battleground for cultural debates about Hollywood's modern interpretations of beloved classics. But with social media turning so viciously against Rachel, the real question became, could she salvage her image before the film's release, or was she already past the point of no return?
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. Really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut, who knows?
What was supposed to be Disney's next live-action blockbuster is now shaping up to be one of its most embarrassing flops. Snow White, a film meant to introduce the beloved classic to a new generation, is instead facing the harsh reality of dwindling audience interest, scathing online backlash, and a potential box office disaster. The early projections are grim. Industry insiders predict that Snow White could struggle to break even, a shocking outcome for a Disney princess film with such a massive budget. The warning signs have been there for months. The online outrage over Rachel Zegler's comments, the backlash against the film's changes to the original story, and Disney's mishandling of PR have all contributed to the growing skepticism. Social media movements calling for a boycott have gained serious traction, with the hashtag #BoycottSnowWhite trending across platforms. Even dedicated Disney fans, typically loyal to the brand, seem hesitant to support a film that has sparked so much controversy. Worse yet, early test screenings reportedly received lukewarm responses, with some sources claiming that audiences found the film uninspired and lacking the magic that made the 1937 original a timeless masterpiece. If these reports hold true, then Snow White could join the ranks of recent Disney misfires that failed to capture the nostalgia and excitement needed to succeed at the box office. But the most damaging factor? Disney's inability to shift the narrative. Instead of rebuilding excitement, the studio has remained largely silent, failing to directly address the controversy or win back skeptical audiences. With competitors releasing highly anticipated films around the same time, Snow White is facing the very real possibility of becoming an expensive cautionary tale, one that Hollywood won't soon forget. Hollywood is watching the Snow White disaster unfold with bated breath, and the response from the industry has been anything but supportive. Insiders are already whispering that Rachel Zegler may have burned too many bridges too soon, turning what was once a promising career into a cautionary tale. Producers and executives who once saw Zegler as the next big thing after her breakout role in West Side Story are now reconsidering her bankability. The controversy surrounding Snow White, from her dismissive comments about the original film to the public backlash that followed, has left industry power players wary. In an era where audience sentiment directly affects box office returns, no studio wants to take a risk on a leading lady who has alienated potential ticket buyers. Even more telling is the eerie silence from Disney itself. Instead of mounting a full-fledged damage control campaign to support their star, the studio has remained mostly hands-off, letting the controversy simmer. Some reports even suggest that Disney is distancing itself from Zegler, perhaps realizing too late that she was not the right fit for such an iconic role. Rumors are already swirling that executives are considering downplaying her involvement in promotional materials closer to the film's release, hoping to shift focus away from the controversy and onto the visual spectacle. Other actors and industry veterans have also weighed in, with some quietly supporting Zegler while others remain critical. Hollywood is a business first, and if an actor becomes too much of a liability, studios won't hesitate to move on. The question now is whether Zegler can recover from this PR disaster, or if her time in the spotlight is already fading. Rachel Zegler's rise to fame was nothing short of meteoric, but after the Snow White controversy, the real question is, can she turn things around? Hollywood is notoriously unforgiving, and once an actor becomes too polarizing, studios often cut their losses and move on. So where does that leave Zegler? The real test will be whether studios still see her as a bankable star. While The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes will offer a glimpse into how audiences respond to her post-controversy, her future projects remain uncertain. If Snow White underperforms, it could be the final nail in the coffin for her A-list ambitions. On the other hand, if she plays her cards right, choosing smaller, critically acclaimed projects over big-budget blockbusters, she might slowly win back the industry's trust. At the end of the day, Hollywood loves a comeback almost as much as it loves a downfall. Whether Zegler will become a redemption story or a cautionary tale depends on her next moves, and how willing audiences are to forgive and forget.